Farewell, Eragon, the mighty hunter returns!
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 books that should never have been made into movies.
You see something that's important, you call it out, we'll make it happen.
For this list, we're looking at printed works that, for one reason or another, just didn't translate to the big screen. Whether they lost their meaning in the adaptation or the books themselves were just better left alone, these movie adaptations failed to win over many fans. Which of these stories did you like way more on the page? Let us know in the comments. Number 20, The Cat in the Hat, Dr. Seuss. After Jim Carrey's turn as the Grinch, movie executives got a funny idea. So, you've got another well-known Dr. Seuss property like The Cat in the Hat. Surely you can spin that character into some kind of feature-length something, right? Apparently not.
A monster? Where? That could have gone better.
While the Grinch has the benefit of character development, the Cat in the Hat is just an anthropomorphic feline with a stunning lack of boundaries or respect for property. In the role, Mike Myers is left at the mercy of an amazingly inept screenplay, uncomfortable jokes, and a threadbare plot. It's not all bad, though. It convinced Audrey Geisel, Dr. Seuss's widow, to put the kibosh on any future live-action adaptations of her husband's work. Not all heroes wear capes.
Oops. Well, now that the cat's out of the bag, to use an archaic and cruel-sounding metaphor, why don't you serve first?
Number 19, Eragon, Christopher Paolini. The first in the Inheritance trilogy focused on a simple farm boy and his pet dragon.
Sorry I didn't pluck 'em. Take care with the little bones. Hate to see you choke.
While the book may not have reinvented the wheel as far as fantasy series go, it was a bestseller upon its 2002 release. A movie adaptation followed in 2006. The movie did well at the box office, but critics lambasted it for its lack of energy and confusing world building. Most of all, though, it seemed to highlight what detractors of the books had to say about it not being all that original a story.
I need to know, Sophia. Why me?
If it was meant to launch a new film franchise, it failed to garner the excitement or the fan base of competitors like the Harry Potter series. Number 18, The Scarlet Letter, Nathaniel Hawthorne.
It appears that we've cornered ourselves a witch. Here, in Hester Prynne's cottage.
The 19th century classic about adultery and Puritan hypocrisy has been adapted for the screen at least 7 times. Some attempts to externalize the novel's deeply internal conflicts are better than others. None of these attempts are quite as off the mark, though, as the 1995 feature starring Demi Moore and Gary Oldman. Instead of finding some way to dramatize the book's personal turmoils, this movie decided to pitch a literary classic to its audience by adding gratuitous sex and violence to it. It alienated fans of the book from the start, and even the more open-minded viewers couldn't get past the movie's ridiculous and overwrought acting, dialogue, and music.
This movie has no sense of sin, no sense of guilt. It's just kind of a propaganda film for letting it all hang out.
Number 17, The Percy Jackson and the Olympians series, Rick Riordan. Sometimes fans can be particular about what a movie version of their favorite book leaves out.
Whatever. It's a terrible idea.
I've had a grand idea!
Even author Rick Riordan was not pleased with the first script for the Percy Jackson series. He would later publish emails featuring his unused suggestions for rewrites. Although The Lightning Thief deviated from the source novel, it was well-liked enough to earn a sequel. The second installment, however, still did not learn from fan feedback of the first and took even more liberties. Given how both movies turned out, many think this was a series that was better left to the page. Here's hoping the new Disney Plus adaptation, helmed by Riordan himself, is more successful when it premieres in 2024.
And I read the script, they said, "Oh, we totally want your input." So I was reading the script and I was like... And so I wrote them back and I said, I have a few suggestions.
Number 16, The Giver, Lois Lowry. The original book by Lois Lowry was written before the boom of young adult dystopian fiction, but the movie wasn't made until after The Hunger Games became a hit.
Welcome, citizens, to the annual ceremony of advancement.
In response, the writers aged up the characters and added a romantic subplot between the protagonist and his friend that is little more than a footnote in the book. In essence, the movie covers a lot of the same ground, but this new focus on romance takes away from some of the story's meatier themes. For a plot as unique as The Giver's is, it's ridiculous that the movie was pretty much indistinguishable from everything else that was put out around the same time.
People are weak. People are selfish. When people have the freedom to choose, they choose wrong.
Number 15, The Queen of the Damned, Anne Rice. Interview with the Vampire wasn't perfect, but it definitely captured a certain amount of the magic of Anne Rice. This 2000 semi-sequel mashes together the book of the same name with another book in her The Vampire Chronicles series, The Vampire Lestat.
I am the vampire Lestat.
This makes sense. Queen of the Damned may feature some iconic images of the late Aaliyah, but it's a mess of ideas and inspirations that the author was skeptical about from the start. After the movie was released and the critics savaged it, she did not mince words.
I didn't care for the movie of The Queen of the Damned at all. I begged the studio not to make that movie.
The idea to collapse two epic novels into one was misguided to begin with, but the movie's aesthetics don't do the story any favors either. Number 14, Paper Towns, John Green. Novelist John Green specializes in stories that center young people and takes their youthful yet complex emotions seriously. When Paper Towns was greenlit for production, fans were eager to see what the makers came up with. On paper, the stories are pretty similar. What readers missed most, though, was the book's sense of stakes.
It's not as weird as it looks.
Still weird.
The protagonist spends much of the novel chasing after his crush, or at least the idealized version of his crush, with the fear that she may be in danger or even already dead. More than that, many readers complained the movie just missed the point. The screenplay robs the story of its complex themes about idealizing other people, and instead takes a more straightforward approach to teen romance.
I'm just a little surprised.
Wait, what are you surprised about? I followed the clues.
Number 13, Battlefield Earth, L. Ron Hubbard. Hubbard's original career as an author of science fiction is often greatly overshadowed by his status as founder of the Church of Scientology. According to star and noted Scientologist John Travolta, Hubbard had wished for him to star in a potential movie adaptation in the early 80s. Nearly 2 decades after the book's release, Travolta honored that wish. Battlefield Earth quickly became hailed as one of the worst movies ever made.
What do you mean, we? It's my plan. I'm sending the gold to Cyclo, then I'm getting off this stinking planet.
It's not all that surprising, though, given that many contemporary reviewers already thought the book was thin on story and interesting characters. These flaws were only magnified on screen.
You imbecile! What kind of crap-lousy game are you playing?
Number 12, My Sister's Keeper, Jodi Picoult. With its themes of medical ethics and familial bonds, this Jodi Picoult book struck a chord in millions of readers. It follows 2 sisters, one who is diagnosed with childhood cancer, and one whose parents conceive her to provide potentially life-saving blood donations for the older sister.
I'm a designer, maybe. I was made in a dish to be spare parts for Kate.
When the Notebook director Nick Cassavetes adapted it to film, he angered many fans and the author herself by changing the ending. Although changes are sometimes necessary in translation, there was a consensus that the original conclusion was much more poignant and less overtly sentimental than the new one. Picoult was so upset that she has since expressed regret for letting Cassavetes make the film at all.
She's just gone. Little piece of blue sky now. And we all have to move on.
Number 11, World War Z, Max Brooks. What made Max Brooks' sprawling oral history of the fictional zombie apocalypse so compelling was its breadth and scope.
So the earliest mention of the word zombie was in a memo from Camp Humphreys in South Korea.
Told from the perspectives of several different people from every corner of the globe, it's a horrifying chronicle of a decade-long war that spans many years and many countries. It's a macroscopic view of a catastrophic event, and survival is a group effort. This rich and detailed narrative is sidelined for the movie. Instead, it tells the story of one United Nations worker who almost single-handedly saves humanity. The book is about group effort and global cooperation, not the heroic exploits of one individual.
I have to go. They're gonna kick us off the ship.
A miniseries might not even do it justice, but a 2-hour movie was doomed from the jump. Number 10, Confessions of a Shopaholic and Shopaholic Takes Manhattan, Sophie Kinsella.
Jacket, Visa. Dress, Amex. Belt, MasterCard. It's vintage, and I got 1% cash back.
We all love a good rom-com, but if the wit and cleverness of the writing can't be executed in the script, then what's the point of making it into a movie? That's the question we were all asking ourselves after sitting through the 2009 Isla Fisher film version of Confessions of a Shopaholic.
Do you see what I mean? No, I do. I keep talking.
The movie was just a little too silly and doesn't convey how smart the first 2 books of the Shopaholic series could be when it came to discussing consumerism, all while still being hilarious. The movie just felt dumbed down, and because of that, it's best to just read Sophie Kinsella's books.
You have nothing left.
I mean, I wouldn't put it like that.
Number 9, The Da Vinci Code, Dan Brown.
I'm not sure how much help I'm going to be here this evening.
As a novel, The Da Vinci Code was a massive success among readers, since it made the search for the Holy Grail into a gripping thriller. The movie tried to capture the spark of the novel, but somewhere along the way it fell flat. Despite consistently incredible actors Tom Hanks and Ian McKellen at the center of the story.
This is the original icon for mail. It's a rudimentary phallus.
Quite to the point.
Yes, indeed.
The book gave complex, sometimes dark motivations to some of its characters that the movie left out, and the storytelling felt too simplistic yet scattered, losing all the fun of mystery solving that the book held.
It won't ever make sense.
Number 8, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams. In a book like this sci-fi classic, most of the fun of the reading experience comes from Douglas Adams' tangents and one-offs that explore passages from the titular book within a book. This is exactly why the story does not lend itself to the successful movie adaptation. The 2005 version tried to capture the quirk of the book, but in reality, many things from the story were left out for more streamlined storytelling. While the screenwriters tried to keep some of the magic of Adams' original dialogue, it felt pretty clunky and confusing for viewers who weren't familiar with the source material.
Oh, I see where you become confused now. You see, we were experimenting on them.
Ah, no. Well, yeah, no. I gather that's what they wanted you to think, but you were actually elements in their computer program.
If the movie can't add anything to the story, it's best to simply leave it on the page.
Does, anything you want to change? Something you think your planet could do without?
Number 7, Beloved, Toni Morrison. A truly unique book, Beloved is part Civil War story, part ghost story, and way too psychological to be captured on screen.
Good God, girl. What kind of evil you got in there?
It ain't evil. Just sad. Come on. Step on through.
It tells the story of Sethta, a runaway enslaved person who is haunted by a ghost and meets a reincarnated version of the daughter she killed in order to save her from a similar life.
Tell me you diamonds.
Morrison's book explores her psychology while playing with the reader's expectation of how the story will unfold. The 1998 Oprah adaptation just felt like it was telling the story's plot without really showing how harrowing the events of the book were for the main character. Audiences could see through this, and it was a box office bomb. Number 6, The Lovely Bones, Alice Sebold. While there's nothing inherently too complex about the story's plot, the movie version of The Lovely Bones just felt off.
Like, if you start something, you finish it. You don't stop until you get it right. If you don't get it right, you start over again, and you keep on going as long as you have to.
The book tells the story of Susie Salmon, a young girl who's murdered, and watches her family deal with her death and discover who her killer was while she's stuck in the in-between. Even with strong performances from Saoirse Ronan and Stanley Tucci, the movie jumped back and forth between being too dark and overly sentimental as Susie's family figures out what happened to her. And while the depiction of the in-between felt powerful in the book, it looked kinda silly in the movie.
This place is not really one place, and also is not the other place. It's bits of both.
Number 5, Watchmen, Alan Moore. Is it too pretentious to say that the story of Watchmen is too complex to be made into a movie? Regardless, it's true. While most superhero movies have a more simple story with a clear good guy and bad guy dynamic, this graphic novel features more ambiguous characters and a satirical take on the whole superhero genre.
At least I'm not the one still hiding behind a mask.
No. You're hiding in plain sight.
While the movie tried to cram all that into its story, it really seemed to focus on style over substance, which made it lose the depth of the original plot. Creator Alan Moore feels the same, and famously said that he had no intention of seeing the film.
I should thank you. I'd almost forgotten the excitement of not knowing.
Number 4, Cloud Atlas, David Mitchell.
While my extensive experience as an editor has led me to a disdain for flashbacks and flash-forwards and all such tricksy gimmicks, I believe that if you, dear reader, can extend your patience for just a moment, you will find there is a method to this tale of madness.
Author David Mitchell is an experimental writer known for breaking conventions in his compelling stories. This is exactly what he did with Cloud Atlas, a book of 6 interconnected stories that span a length of time and deal with deeper themes like reincarnation. It's a beautiful story, but one that makes little sense on screen.
Your version of the truth is all that matters.
The movie felt nonsensical with a hard-to-follow plot. It was jarring to jump from setting to setting, past to present. The Wachowskis co-directed the film with Tom Tykwer, and while it looked great and had an absolutely stacked ensemble cast including Tom Hanks, Halle Berry, and Jim Broadbent, it's a story better suited for a book. Number 3. The Dark Tower series, Stephen King. How do you take a series of 8 books and condense them into a 95-minute movie? The correct answer is you don't.
My nose and I went down and I couldn't see anything.
Hate. Yeah. But that's pretty much what the 2017 movie attempted to accomplish. Talks of adapting the books have been in the works for years, and directors J.J. Abrams and Ron Howard tried to take a stab at it before it eventually went to the lesser-known Nikolai Arcel. It seems like the studio would have gotten the hint that maybe there's too much story for a movie.
I hope you don't mind me making myself at home. Where I come from, we don't have chicken.
Who the hell are you?
But they didn't. And instead, fans of the books were given something completely different from the source material, while people new to the series could not understand the story. Also, it was a waste of Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey's talents.
The war is over when we lost.
Number 2. Eat, Pray, Love, Elizabeth Gilbert. While memoirs can sometimes make for interesting on-screen stories, most of the time they're too anecdotal and don't really have much of a linear story. This is perfectly fine for a book, but the exact opposite of what you want in a film.
My support for you? No, there's like nothing. I have no pulse.
They tried to give the 2010 Julia Roberts version a compelling narrative, but honestly, it was just boring to watch a woman eat food and pray, no matter how good of an actor Roberts is.
Oh my God, kill me.
The strength of Elizabeth Gilbert's story is how internal her journey was, and how connected readers felt to her on the page. That connection was missing, and made for a movie that didn't amount to much.
Do not tell me what lessons I have and haven't learned in the last year. No, tell me how balanced and wise you are and how I can express myself.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are some honorable mentions. Inherent Vice, Thomas Pynchon. Pynchon's famously dense prose makes an accurate translation almost impossible.
But it's not just the usual. I think they're working on some creepy little scheme.
The Golden Compass, Philip Pullman. This adaptation was accused of watering down the book's anti-religion themes.
And while you're at it, you must learn to control your demon. He's much too wild. Now, kiss me.
Cross, James Patterson. Fans rejected Tyler Perry's Razzie-nominated turn as the literary detective.
But I will meet his soul at the gates of hell before I let him take another person from me that I love.
The Goldfinch, Donna Tartt. So bad, the author fired her agent and refused to sell screen rights to her work again.
There's been a mistake.
Oh, but there has been, Mr. Decker. You sold a fake to someone who can tell the difference.
The Time Traveler's Wife, Audrey Niffenegger. Fans were none too pleased at just how much was cut from the original book.
I wouldn't change anything. I would not give up 1 second of our life together.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The Great Gatsby, F. Scott Fitzgerald. Despite multiple valiant attempts, the true magic of this classic novel has never been fully captured on screen. Particularly in the 1974 and 2013 adaptations of the book, the symbolism and themes of loneliness never seem to be adequately explored in the movies.
Do you always watch for the longest day in the year and then miss it? I do.
Instead, both versions, particularly the Baz Luhrmann picture, get caught up in the excesses of the glamour of the world without thoroughly exploring the darker underside.
I'm afraid I haven't been a very good host, old sport.
You see, I'm Gatsby.
In other words, both versions have no heart. And if heavyweight actors like Robert Redford, Mia Farrow, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Carey Mulligan can't bring out the characters' nuances, it's safe to say no one can.
Haven't you heard? Rich girls don't marry poor boys.
Leave this one to required reading in high school English. Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.